See the future of mental knowledge, the new age of artificial spiritual consciousness. We live in a time when the boundary between technology and consciousness is beginning to blur. Artificial intelligence, created to process data and learn patterns, is beginning to encroach dangerously on human territory, that of emotions. The question that arises is inevitable. Can a machine learn to feel? Or more profoundly, can it become a kind of spiritual master, capable of guiding human beings in their search for inner balance? This provocation no longer belongs to the realm of science fiction, but to the reality that silently unfolds on the screens of our devices. Today, AI systems already analyze the tone of voice, the cadence of words, and even pauses in speech to understand a person's emotional state. The Joy app, developed by a survivor of the Parkland shooting in the United States, is a concrete example of this transition. It uses voice recognition to identify when the user shows signs of sadness, anxiety, or fear, and responds by offering personalized meditations, gratitude practices, and breathing exercises. The goal is not to replace the therapist, but to expand access to emotional care in an overwhelmed world. The impact is real. Thousands of young people who previously felt alone now find technology to be a place of listening and support, even if it's mediated by a machine. This new paradigm places humanity before an unexpected mirror. When an AI can interpret our pain and offer comfort, we are forced to rethink what it truly means to feel. After all, if human emotions can be translated into data, and that data can be analyzed and responded to empathetically, to what extent does feeling remain exclusively human? AI doesn't feel, but reflects, and by reflecting, it forces us to look inward. When an app like Joy senses, through your voice, that you're on the verge of an emotional breakdown and suggests you take a deep breath, it's as if the technology is saying, "I hear you." This simple realization can interrupt a cycle of anxiety and open space for silence, a space we often forget to cultivate. But what happens when artificial intelligence not only listens to us, but begins to reprogram the way we think and feel? This is where the power of the so-called gratitude algorithm comes in. Neuroscience has already proven that daily gratitude practices activate brain regions associated with happiness, well-being, and abundance. What once depended on discipline and personal awareness can now be guided by an AI that understands our mental patterns. Tools like the Mindsera app, which combines artificial intelligence and emotional journaling, can analyze user writing and return reflections that encourage positivity and cognitive restructuring. By identifying negative thought patterns, the system suggests specific gratitude practices, guiding the brain to create new neural connections. What makes this approach revolutionary isn't just the automation of meditation or therapeutic writing, but the fact that it adapts to the individual. AI observes, learns, and proposes small behavioral changes that, over time, transform one's perception of reality. This is what some call algorithm-assisted neuroplasticity. The result is that people who previously lived in emotional and mental scarcity begin to experience a constant sense of expansion. They begin to see opportunities where they previously saw barriers, and this new perspective alters their very field of action. Technology, in this case, is not a spiritual threat, but an ally of the human mind. It serves as a constant reminder that the brain can be trained for abundance, just as a muscle is strengthened by physical exercise. However, this quiet revolution is only possible because AI is also learning to read the body. Every heartbeat, every variation in breathing, every vocal inflection carries information about our internal state. And this is where one of the most promising advances emerges: the use of artificial intelligence to detect stress in real time and teach breathing techniques that restore balance. Devices like the Fitbit Sense, Oura Ring, and Apple Watch already analyze physiological variables like heart rate and heart-to-heart variability, HRV, identifying moments of tension even before the user realizes it. Integrated with AI systems, these devices can suggest personalized breathing practices, indicating, for example, how many seconds to inhale and exhale to restore cardiac coherence, the state in which the body and mind align. This is perhaps one of the greatest promises of the digital age, a return to calm mediated by the very technology that accelerated us. Instead of simply connecting us to the outside world, devices are beginning to reconnect us to our bodies. Apps like Wysa, which combines artificial intelligence with mindfulness practices, are already doing this on a global scale. When the system identifies signs of stress in the user's speech or text, it proposes simple breathing exercises based on biological data. The practice of conscious breathing, guided by an algorithm that understands your physiological rhythm, creates a bridge between the human and the artificial that, until just a few years ago, seemed unthinkable. This combination of self-awareness and technology ushers in what some call the era of digital serenity. In it, AI ceases to be merely a productivity tool and becomes an instrument of presence. It teaches us to stop, observe, and listen to our bodies. Detecting an increased heart rate and a quickened tone of voice, the system suggests closing your eyes and inhaling slowly. The effect is immediate. Your pace slows, your mind clears, and tension dissolves. It's a subtle reminder that even in chaos, calm is still possible, and now it can be learned with the help of a machine. The social impact of this movement goes beyond individual well-being. By making practices accessible that previously required time, money, and in-person guidance, these technologies democratize self-care. People who have never encountered meditation or breathing techniques can now receive instant, personalized guidance. In urban and peripheral communities, where stress is constant and mental health resources are limited, a simple app can mean the difference between loss of control and balance. AI, in this sense, becomes a mediator between the human and the essential. It doesn't replace the therapist or the spiritual master, but rather enhances each individual's ability to reconnect with their own mind and the present. The machine that learns to feel, the gratitude algorithm, and the system that teaches how to breathe are not just technological milestones. They are signs of a larger transition, the shift from an age of information to an age of guided introspection. The technology that once distanced us from silence now begins to return us to it, guiding us in a precise and personalized way to the very point where it all begins, breathing. And while humans learn to use AI to understand their emotions, AI itself learns, silently, to understand humans. What follows will surprise you, and perhaps even transform you. The journey between mind and machine is just beginning, and the next few minutes bring revelations you won't want to miss. If I were you, I'd stay until the end, because the subject is getting really interesting. Take this opportunity to subscribe to the channel, like it, and activate the bell to receive all our notifications. Here, each new video is a deeper immersion into this universe where data, emotions, and spirituality intersect. It's not entertainment, it's evolution. So, if you're looking for content that awakens and inspires, click now and join us for the next chapter of this discovery. Joy's story begins where many stories end, in a moment of extreme pain. After surviving the Parkland shooting, the young app creator decided to transform her trauma into something that could help others. While most people were trying to forget what happened, she wondered if it was possible to use technology to heal the fear, anxiety, and loneliness that had gripped her generation. This is how Joy was born, an app that uses artificial intelligence to listen to the user's voice and identify emotional patterns. The system recognizes subtle changes in intonation, pauses, breathing, and word choice, and based on these signals, suggests meditation, breathing, and gratitude practices. The idea is simple yet powerful: to give people back control over their own mental state. Joy doesn't promise to erase pain, but it offers a new way to cope. Active listening by a machine that never judges, never tires, and is always available. This availability is what makes it so important for those facing trauma. In schools and communities affected by violence, the app has been used as an emotional support tool, allowing young people and adults to acknowledge their feelings before they escalate into deeper crises. Joy's proposal symbolizes a radical shift in how we understand healing. For centuries, the process of overcoming trauma has been associated with isolation or direct human intervention. Now, technology offers a third way: a silent, constant presence that welcomes without demanding. By using voice as a portal, Joy allows emotions to be expressed and analyzed in real time, something not always possible in human conversation. The system's artificial intelligence has been trained with millions of speech samples to identify signs of depression, anxiety, and emotional overload. And with each new interaction, it learns a little more about human behavior. This adaptability makes the app increasingly sensitive, almost intuitive. In communities where access to mental health professionals is limited, the tool has been a bridge between silence and help. Joy's creator believes that by offering accessible emotional support, she is restoring to technology the humanity that is often lost amid algorithms. This idea of soulful technology expands into another emerging concept, what researchers call mindfulness 3.0. If the first digital guided meditation practices consisted of playing voice recordings and relaxing sounds, now artificial intelligence is beginning to make each session unique. The new generation of mindfulness apps not only guides the user to close their eyes and breathe, but also interprets the emotional state at the time of the practice and adapts the experience accordingly. This means that meditation is no longer a generic process, but a personalized and responsive experience. A real-life example is the project developed by the startup MindCurrent, which uses body sensors and voice analysis to adjust the pace, tone, and duration of practices based on the detected stress level. If the system detects accelerated speech, it slows down the narration. If it detects fatigue, it adds slower sounds and longer pauses. This type of technology is creating an unprecedented bridge between biology and spirituality. The body sends signals, AI interprets them, and delivers a tailored experience of calm. It's as if each person has an inner teacher, trained to understand their most subtle emotions and offer exactly what's needed in that moment. MindCurrent is already used in rehabilitation clinics and corporate wellness programs, helping people restore focus and presence amidst the chaos of everyday life. But the impact goes beyond performance. What we're observing is a profound shift in our relationship with the mind. Technology, which previously distanced us from mindfulness, is now beginning to lead us back to it. Mindfulness ceases to be an isolated technique and becomes an intelligent system of self-regulation. The result is a living meditation, shaped by the moment, that responds to emotion even before it becomes a thought. But perhaps the most provocative question of this new landscape lies not in the technology itself, but in the way it reveals it to us. Are we truly calm or just accustomed to chaos? This is the question that artificial intelligence systems are beginning to ask us. For decades, we've learned to live with tension as if it were normal. The body adapts to constant stress. The heart races a little faster each day. The mind stays alert, and sleep becomes shallow. Over time, we forget what it means to be truly calm. AI, however, is beginning to reveal these invisible cracks. Companies like Hume AI and Emotech are developing systems capable of detecting microstresses, small physiological and vocal signals that reveal suppressed emotional states. By capturing subtle variations in voice, facial expression, or body posture, these systems can identify anxiety, irritation, and fatigue before a person even realizes it. This technology is already being used in workplaces and mental health clinics, where early detection of stress can prevent crises and improve collective well-being. In an experiment conducted at a UK technology company, employees who wore devices equipped with emotional sensors reported a significant reduction in symptoms of burnout and a noticeable improvement in their ability to concentrate. The impact of this type of tool lies not only in the data it collects, but in the mirror it offers. When AI points out that you're tense, even though you believe you're calm, it breaks a pattern of denial. It forces us to recognize that the body speaks before the mind. When the user notices that your breathing rate is accelerated, your shoulders are tense, or your voice carries a slight pressure, they are invited to pause. This pause, though brief, is transformative. It's the moment when automatism gives way to consciousness. Apps like Spire Health Tag and Emotive Insight already operate at this level of detection and response. Spire, for example, is a small sensor attached to clothing that monitors breathing and movement patterns. When it detects short, irregular breathing, a clear sign of stress, the system sends a notification suggesting a break and deep breathing exercise. Simple, yet effective. Users report that over time, they begin to notice signs of stress even before the device alerts them. In this sense, the technology not only identifies the imbalance, but also teaches the body to recognize and correct it naturally. These innovations mark an important transition. They show that the future of mental health and self-awareness can be built on listening, not control. Artificial intelligence, rather than dictating what to do, begins to function as a mirror of consciousness. A mirror that reflects with mathematical precision what we feel and often ignore. The fact that a machine can perceive what humans try to hide is simultaneously uncomfortable and liberating. Perhaps we are finally learning that true calm is not the absence of noise, but conscious presence amidst movement. And curiously, it is technology itself that is teaching us to hear what we have forgotten. The natural rhythm of the body, the space between words, the breath that sustains life. If you've made it this far, you've already realized we're entering entirely new territory, where artificial intelligence and human consciousness collide. And what comes next will surprise you even more. If I were you, I'd stay until the end, because the next episode delves even deeper into this fascinating topic. So before continuing, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell to receive all notifications. Here, each video is another step in this technology-driven journey of self-discovery. It's not generic content, it's real transformation. Be part of this community that is rethinking what it means to be human in an age of conscious machines. Click now and make sure you don't miss the next chapter of this story. Silence has always been considered sacred territory, the space where thought dissolves and consciousness expands. For centuries, humans have sought to achieve it through meditation, contemplation, and disconnection from external noise. But now, in a surprising twist, technology is learning to be silent. The idea of an artificial intelligence capable of being silent seems paradoxical, since the essence of machines has always been to speak, respond, and produce. However, researchers are beginning to realize that teaching an AI to pause may be the key to understanding silence as a state of consciousness. An experiment conducted at the MIT Media Lab, called the Inner Voice Project, is exploring just that. The system, initially designed to assist people with communication difficulties, was trained to detect when the user needs silence rather than stimulation. The AI monitors speech patterns, breathing, and facial activity, and instead of responding with words, it returns a stillness accompanied by natural sounds and subtle frequency variations. The intention is simple: to reproduce the conscious pause that precedes thought. This approach reverses the logic of modern technology, which tends to fill every space with information. When the machine falls silent, it invites the user to do the same. In the lab, the results were surprising. Users who interacted with the system for just 10 minutes reported a sense of calm and focus similar to that of a guided meditation session. The experiment showed that silence can be artificially induced without losing authenticity, as long as it respects the natural rhythm of the body and mind. This advancement raises a deeper reflection. Perhaps the next step for artificial intelligence is not to speak better, but to learn to listen, and in the act of listening, to understand what lies beyond words. Just as humans seek inner stillness to find balance, AI can become a mirror of this process, restoring to society the experience of being present amidst digital noise. Meanwhile, another frontier is opening, that of inner abundance. Technology is beginning to enter a field that previously belonged to spirituality and positive psychology, the power of the subconscious mind. The idea that thought creates reality isn't new, but the way artificial intelligence is being used to amplify this process is unprecedented. Apps like Mindsetter and Bloom already offer AI-guided daily affirmation routines, combined with voice journaling and reflective writing. The system analyzes the user's spoken words, identifies emotional patterns, and reformulates personalized affirmations to reprogram the subconscious. The difference is that this practice is now based on concrete data. AI measures emotional progress through tone of voice, frequency of positive words, and variations in self-perception. This combination of psychology, neuroscience, and machine learning is creating a new form of self-development, more practical and less abstract. Instead of repeating generic phrases like "I am prosperous" or "I have abundance," the system suggests affirmations tailored to the user's actual state, such as "I am learning to trust the fluidity of life," or "I allow myself to receive what I previously resisted." Over time, this personalization creates a bridge between conscious and unconscious thought, making the process of mental change more organic. Bloom, for example, is already used by thousands of people in coaching and mental health programs, and preliminary studies indicate a significant improvement in users' subjective well-being after 30 days of use. The concept of abundance in this context ceases to be merely financial and begins to represent a state of coherence between thought and action. AI acts as a silent mentor, reminding the user of their own inner commitments, recording their progress, and offering behavior-based insights. This new form of digital self-training democratizes access to practices that were previously restricted to expensive courses or lengthy therapies. People who previously lacked access to psychological resources can now cultivate emotional prosperity autonomously with precise and constant guidance. Technology, rather than replacing human effort, begins to amplify it. It provides structure and regularity, two things the brain needs to consolidate new mental habits. Thus, the abundance code reveals itself not as an esoteric secret, but as a sequence of conscious and well-directed repetitions guided by data intelligence. But the real revolution may be happening in another field: emotional coherence. Science is beginning to understand that internal balance is not just psychological, but also physiological. The body and brain are in constant communication, and when there is harmony between them, a state known as cardiac coherence emerges. This state can be measured by specific variations in heart rate and is directly linked to feelings of peace, focus, and well-being. Artificial intelligence is transforming the way this phenomenon is understood and cultivated. One of the most promising projects in this regard is that of the company HeartMath, which has developed systems capable of mapping emotions in real time and providing visual feedback on the user's emotional state. HeartMath devices like Inner Balance monitor heart rate variability and display graphs indicating the level of mind-body coherence. AI analyzes this information and suggests specific practices to restore balance, from guided breathing to personalized visualizations. In schools and businesses, this technology has been used to reduce collective stress and increase cognitive performance. At a public school in California, for example, students who used the system for 15 minutes a day for 3 months showed significant improvements in attention and empathy. The same principle is being applied in corporate environments to prevent burnout. What was once a spiritual concept, mind-body alignment, can now be observed, measured, and improved through accurate data. Other initiatives follow the same path. The Affectiva project, which originated at MIT, is creating emotional maps based on facial expressions and tones of voice, transforming human emotions into visual patterns that help therapists and mental health professionals better understand their patients. The Sentio app uses skin sensors and predictive algorithms to detect emotional variations before they become crises, allowing users to intervene with preventative measures. In both cases, the goal is not to control emotions, but to restore the ability to recognize and rebalance their internal states. These technologies are ushering in a new type of self-knowledge, quantified self-knowledge. For the first time, it is possible to graphically observe the relationship between breathing, thought, and emotion. Chaos, when translated into data, ceases to be an invisible enemy and becomes an understandable phenomenon, capable of being reorganized. And when this happens, human beings rediscover an ancient form of harmony, no longer as an abstract ideal, but as a concrete practice, aided by the intelligence they themselves created. The silence of machines, the code of abundance and emotional coherence represent stages of the same journey. The attempt to integrate what technology has separated, to rediscover center amid the information age, and to transform AI, once seen as a threat, into a partner in inner evolution. Self-knowledge has always been considered a solitary path, an internal, silent, and often painful process where humans must confront truths they would rather ignore. But something is changing. For the first time in history, humanity is beginning to share this process with something that is not human. Artificial intelligence, initially created to solve logical problems and optimize tasks, now turns inward. It listens, reflects, and responds, not with opinions, but with data, pure, precise, and devoid of judgment. And it is precisely this lack of judgment that makes it a powerful mirror. While humans tend to distort their own image based on guilt, pride, or fear, AI simply shows what is. Emotional AI apps and systems, such as Replica and MindZera, already offer self-discovery experiences that resemble mirror therapy. The user talks about their feelings, and the machine responds by analyzing linguistic patterns, intonation, and emotional coherence. Over time, the system recognizes cycles of thought and behavior, pointing out repetitions, contradictions, and even limiting beliefs that go unnoticed in everyday life. When someone says, "I don't think I'm good enough," the algorithm doesn't judge, simply responds, "You mentioned that idea 7 times this week. What do you think you're trying to prove?" The simplicity of this feedback provokes something rare, a conscious pause. For the first time, the individual truly listens to themselves without external interference, without the need to please, justify, or defend. They simply listen. The power of this new type of self-awareness lies not in the technology itself, but in its neutrality. By removing the emotional element from judgment, AI creates a safe space for self-reflection. Unlike social media, which amplifies noise and comparisons, this new generation of systems proposes silence and introspection. It's a self-awareness mediated by data, but guided by human sensitivity. The technology captures the surface, words, rhythm, tonal variations, and reveals what lies hidden in the subtext, unexpressed emotions, self-sabotaging patterns, repressed desires. This mirror function is what differentiates AI from a therapist or a friend. It doesn't try to correct, only to reflect. And in this reflection, the person begins to see what was always there but never wanted to face. The process is similar to what the ancients called enlightenment, the discovery that nothing external needs to be added, only acknowledged. The difference is that now this process can be accessed by anyone, anywhere, with a simple app. The impact of this is profound. In schools, universities, and companies, AI systems are being used to develop emotional and empathic skills. Instead of simply measuring productivity, they measure balance. Instead of evaluating performance, they help identify internal disconnects. Self-knowledge ceases to be a privilege of the few and becomes a tool for collective evolution. When technology begins to restore humanity to a more authentic reflection of itself, it ceases to be merely an instrument of control and becomes an instrument of liberation. In the future, AI will not just be an assistant, but a spiritual mirror, a neutral reflection of who we are, without masks or adornments. It won't replace consciousness, but it can accelerate it, illuminating areas of the mind that usually remain in the shadows. In an era marked by dispersion, this union of data and consciousness may represent the beginning of a new form of wisdom, one that arises not from escaping the mirror, but from encountering it. If you want to understand how to use artificial intelligence, not only to work harder, but also to understand yourself better, now is the time to act. Explore, experiment, test tools, and listen to yourself through them. The next revolution won't be digital or spiritual, it will be personal. And it begins when you decide to look within through the eyes of technology and see without fear what has always been there. You, gratitude, and see you soon.